Today, we retrieve the first log of the N.G.S. arrival. This isn't just a story. It's the digital pulse of a dying era. Experience the premiere of the Genesis Scoundrel, a specialized LitRPG visual novel chronicle. This is Chapter 1. The Horde begins.
The world ended on a Tuesday. I, formerly Rex Carter, a nobody in the old world, watched it burn from the 7th floor window of my cramped rental apartment in Sector 4. Day 2 of the apocalypse. The air outside smelled of burning rubber and something metallic and sick. The smell of walker blood mixed with human panic. Down in the courtyard, 3 walkers, their skin gray, their movements a sickening, jerking parody of life, were finishing what remained of old Mr. Hernandez. The sound was mostly low, wet tearing, punctuated by their guttural, rasping gahs. For 48 hours, I hadn't moved much. I was a digital hermit even before the collapse, living off instant noodles and online deliveries. My existence was data streams and glowing screens. Ironically, that isolation saved me. Anyone who stepped outside on day 1 became part of the new biomass. I was scrolling through the last vestiges of cached local news, a futile, nostalgic exercise, when it hit. Not a virus, not a sound, just a pure, high-frequency ding that rattled my skull, followed by a blinding flash of cyan light that overlaid my vision.
New Genesis System, N.G.S, activated.
The screen was translucent, holographic, shimmering over the peeling paint of my wall. It wasn't in my brain. It felt like a perfectly calibrated HUD projected directly onto my retina.
Rex status, Survivor, Tier 0. Attributes, Strength, 10. Speed, 9. Agility, 7. Endurance, 8. Spirit, 8. Note, average human baseline is 10.
I was below baseline in everything except brute strength, where I managed average. Proper shut-ins stats. A wave of disgust washed over me. I was weak. In this new world, I was prey. But beneath the stats, a secondary tab blinked with a golden, alluring pulse.
Genetic archive, locked.
Curiosity piqued. I mentally focused on it. The window expanded, displaying a grid of shadowed silhouettes. They were all female. Even in silhouette, the outlines were distinct, athletic, curvaceous, elegant.
Detected potential targets in vicinity. Target 01, locked. Title, The Campus Queen. Class, S. Status, starving. Target 02, locked. Title, The Landlord's Wife. Class, A. Status, desperate. Target 03, locked. Title, The Doctor. Class, S. Status, unknown. Target 04, locked. Title, The Officer. Class, S. Status, combat active. ... More targets detected. System note, genetic synchronization required to unlock full profiles and attribute bonuses. Complete synchronization grants access to unique biological traits and material rewards. Build the new Genesis.
My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just a survival tool. It was a conquest map. A list of the city's most elite women, now reduced to targets, waiting to be unlocked. Waiting to be synced.
Welcome package acquired. Reward, homogenization trait.
I stabbed a finger at the notification.
Homogenization trait, effect. Your biosignature now mimics that of the infected. Walkers perceive you as one of their own and will ignore your presence unless physically provoked. Warning, effect duration is currently unlimited, cannot be turned off, does not grant immunity to physical contact or biological fluid transmission.
A strange, oily warmth spread through my body. settling deep in my bone marrow. I felt no physical change, yet the relief was monumental. Survival in this new world was purely transactional, and this system had just handed me the ultimate cheat code. Walkers were no longer a threat. They were just scenery. I had absolute, undisputed, unchallenged access to everything outside. My eyes scanned the apartment, a pathetic pile of half-eaten ramen and empty energy drink cans. My inventory. The reality of my new dominance flooded me with a giddy power that eclipsed 2 decades of passive cynicism. I had wasted 48 hours hiding. Time to get to work. The first destination was the small bodega across the street. Not for food. I had maybe 2 days left of instant protein shakes. But for gear. I needed a field pack, heavy-duty gloves, and a proper cutting tool. As I checked the apartment door's triple deadbolt, a sound interrupted me. A faint, desperate tapping on the sliding glass door of my balcony. It was Susan. Susan was my neighbor, the picture of middle-class domestic perfection. Blonde, flawless, always wearing expensive athleisure wear. And pregnant. Her husband, Thomas, was a smug bully, a small-time consultant who drove a leased BMW. She stood on her side of the partition, her face drawn, eyes huge and bloodshot.
Rex, please. God, I know we barely spoke, but Thomas isn't back. I haven't eaten properly since Monday. Can you spare anything? Anything at all? Just until Thomas gets back.
Her voice was hoarse, her composure cracking under a raw need. I looked at my pile of emergency MREs and water bottles, my lifeline. Then I looked at the system's screen, which had subtly flashed over Susan's figure, overlaying her desperate face with cold, hard data.
Target, Susan. Genetic potential, A class. Current state, severely malnourished. High compliance. Synchronization potential, excellent.
The N.G.S. wasn't just telling me she was a potential gene sync partner. It was confirming she was the first step on that ladder I saw in the archive. High compliance. Sorry, Susan, I said, keeping my tone level, devoid of emotion. I'm running on empty myself. You should have been prepping, not trusting in Thomas. Her expression shifted from desperation to a raw, wounded anger.
How can you be so selfish? We're all in this together. I have a child. Thomas will pay you back 100 times over.
A child? I repeated, letting the words sink in. That sounds like a you problem, Susan. And the last time I checked, all in this together meant waiting in line for a lukewarm latte. Out there? I gestured vaguely toward the lethal zombie-infested courtyard. Out there is the law of the jungle, and I didn't write that law. I watched her face crumble. This was the moment of truth. Would she choose the moral high ground or survival?
Rex, please.
Her voice dropped to a plea, a raw, almost vulgar sound.
Just a protein bar. A bottle of water. I'll come over. I'll do anything you ask.
Not yet. I needed to establish my absolute dominance, not just a momentary advantage. I needed her to understand the new currency. You're making empty promises, Susan, I said, leaning closer to the glass. That currency doesn't exist anymore. When you understand what the true value is, you'll know where to find me. I turned, leaving her shattered reflection in the glass. I didn't look back. Morality died yesterday. Today, we eat. I clipped a heavy-duty tactical machete I found in my tiny storage closet to my belt. It was overkill, but satisfyingly heavy, and pulled on a thick leather jacket. My new life as the ultimate prepper began now. Stepping out into the hallway, the putrid smell of decomposition hit me instantly. 3 walkers shambled lazily down the corridor toward the fire escape. I approached the first one. Its breath hitched, its head twitched, and its dead eyes glazed over my form. It registered me, then just forgot. It turned its attention back to the wall, bumping its skull harmlessly against the stucco. The homogenization trait worked. I was camouflage. I was invisible death. I bypassed the walkers and moved quickly down the stairwell. On the 3rd floor, a walker was methodically chewing on a discarded laundry basket. I had to step around a puddle of sickening black bile. It looked up, snorted a wet sound, and returned to its meal. It saw me, but its instincts screamed, "Do not engage, fellow walker." I didn't just feel safe. I felt untouchable. I reached the courtyard gate. Walkers milled everywhere, sluggish and stupid. I slipped through the gap, stepping over a discarded child's bicycle. My goal was the corner bodega. The store's automatic door was jammed half open. Inside, the clerk, bloated and gray, was wandering aimlessly, bumping into the stacked shelves. I ignored him, my heart hammering a chaotic rhythm against my ribs, adrenaline and elation mixing. I grabbed everything of true value. Water, 4 cases of bottled water, essential. Meds, broad-spectrum antibiotics, painkillers, a basic first aid kit. Non-perishables, tins of Spam, canned chili, and, yes, a massive bulk order of energy bars and protein mix. Tooling, a crowbar, a heavy hunting knife, duct tape, flashlights. My backpack, formerly useless for anything heavier than a laptop, quickly strained. I tossed the clerk's corpse-like form a final glance. He was still bumping shelves. I was crossing the street, heavy packs weighing me down but feeling wealthier than any CEO in the old world, when I heard the balcony door of my apartment building slide open again.
Rex, please, I'm begging you.
Susan's voice, weaker now, carried across the street.
Anything. What do you want? Tell me, please.
I stopped in the middle of the street, flanked by 2 walkers who completely ignored me. I slung the pack higher up my shoulder. "You need to be stronger than that, Susan," I called back, my voice loud and clear, cutting through the low moans of the horde. "You need to show me your A-class genetic potential." I didn't wait for her reply. I slipped back through the gate, the first hall of my empire secured. The game had just begun. My status screen flashed once more. I had gained no attributes yet, but the genetic archive flickered in my mind's eye. Target 01. Target 02. They were waiting. The cost of admission to the next level was higher than a mere protein bar. It was absolute submission. And I knew, absolutely, Susan would pay it. I just had to wait.
This is SSS FM 99. Signal is unstable. Subscribe and enable notifications to maintain the connection. Stay connected. Stay alive.